In case you missed the last episode, I'm going to do like a super quick roundup of any that are still on sale at the end of this video. I've done that once before and it seems like a good idea. So the general consensus amongst all of us who can't help but purchase games is that the Switch 2 being fully backwards compatible, I say fully, I don't think things like Ring Fit will work just because of, or the ring, it won't fit. It means we can quite happily purchase games knowing that we can play them at hopefully higher resolutions and frame rates, and in one small way feel a little better about ourselves. Now, if you're going to do that though, you might as well save yourself 5% over at switchup.gg, where you get 5% instantly in cashback, and we get a tiny kickback. Congrats to the winner of the free game. Your name is on the screen right now. Ping us an email and we'll get that sent over to you. Alright, what are the best games on sale this week? Well, let's find out. Let's begin then with Ast Libra Revision, which is down 25%. You might look at that and think, no, that's not for me, but it is a beautifully handcrafted RPG created by one person, and it took him over a decade to make. It really is a labour of love and an incredibly enjoyable game. It's got so many intricate mechanics that you wouldn't expect to be made by, well, a small team, but let alone like one person. It's also a massive world split between several chapters, and you play as Charon, who has a companion that's a talking bird. Trust me, it all makes sense in the game. It plays out within the first, like, epic introduction. But I think perhaps the best element of the game is actually the character creation and customization as you play through. So you can focus on being a mage, or you can have very heavy warrior skills, but also have ranged attacks. There are 6 different difficulty options as well, so you can tailor it to your own style. And actually, you might have seen there's another game which it's like in any other world, it would be like a DLC, but it's so big that it's standalone. So there's going to be something for you to play straight away as soon as you finish this one. 25% off until February the 12th. My pick of the week, easily. This episode is sponsored by Love and Deep Space, and it's a hybrid RPG/dating sim that has been wildly successful since it came out. The whole thing is voice acted in English, and there's a brand new version of the game launching on January the 22nd to celebrate the game's anniversary. This is going to feature the return of a new love interest called Caleb, which has its own storyline, a childhood friend, a new feature called Remind Me, unlocked at Affinity level 20 to make sure you don't miss any of your key life moments. There's the Glen photo booth, which massively improves that functionality, and the With Him Decor update massively expands the decorating space, adding in highly customizable DIY for an immersive decorating experience. Aside from these and updates to the story, as well as limited time events, you'll receive all of the benefits that you can see on the screen right now for completely free. Make sure you use our link down in the description. If it interests you, go and check the game out. And a big thanks to Love and Deep Space for sponsoring this episode. Blossom Tales 2, The Minotaur Prince is 50% off. This was a funny one, wasn't it? Because it kind of came out and there was not much fanfare because people loved the first one. They were like, oh yeah, it's the best thing since sliced bread, or at least sliced Zelda bread. But this is now down to £5.69. That's half price, that's the cheapest it's been. And if you like the idea of a slice of Zelda bread, then this is 15 hours of it. It's got lots of little mini dungeons, caves, has that really nice art style as well. You can't go too far wrong with this one. We do also have a full review of that one. It was Glen that did it, so I'll pop a link to that in the description if you want to go check that out afterwards. Or one of those little card things up in the corner if I remember. I didn't realise with the cards, it like queues it up, so it'll be like the next thing that plays. I always thought it was a pointless system because I just thought it would just take you there instantly. So yeah, my bad. I'll try and pop a card up there, and if there isn't one, I failed miserably. Blossom Tales 2, The Minotaur Prince is 50% off, and that goes on until February the 18th. By the time you're watching this one, the sale may actually have ended in the UK, but the US you'll have one more day. Either way, it's Wartales, which is down to its cheapest price. It's 50% off, down to $17.99. Possibly one of the best and most underrated RPG strategy games we've got on Switch. What you do is at the start of the game you create your own ragtag bunch of mercenaries. You can give them all names, so you do that thing like you do in XCOM, you know, where like, well, I don't know about you, I give them like my family's names, which is a terrible idea, but it makes it way more poignant if they get like abducted or it all ends horribly in combat. Now as you lead your bunch of mercenaries across the countryside, you'll come across all different events that will happen. Like one time you bump into this fella at a barn and basically they've been extorted by a group of bandits, and you've got loads of different ways you can tackle it. You could send him on a quick trip down a deep hole, or you can head off into the woods looking for those bandits, or you can just try and talk your way out of the situation or escalate it using verbal means, and that's kind of why I like this so much. There's that sense of freedom, and it's not always the case. Some of the instances, there's not many different options, but a lot of them you do feel like you have that choice. When it all comes down to it though, and the something hits the fan and you have to fight, it has this tactical turn-based, but with a real brutal quality to it. It's a massive game, very addictive. It'll take you about 40 to 50 hours to finish, and if you want to do a completionist run or several, more like 120 plus. As I say, that's Wartales, 50% off. You've got today and maybe tomorrow to pick this one up. For those who missed Lil Gator game, it's 40% off, and I think that's its cheapest. And this is to mark the fact that there is a new game coming out, or at least an expansion. But this is really fun, although not for everyone. Now essentially here you're in like an imaginary play world almost. So there's no combat. You'll come across like cardboard cutouts with swords and stuff. But there's a bit of crafting in there. It's got a nice soundtrack, and you gradually rebuild in the playground in the center. I enjoyed this one. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as something like A Short Hike, but it definitely has its place. Like you have cozy games, there's like cutesy games, isn't there? I don't know what we'd call it. What should we call that genre? But you kind of know what I mean. It's about 4 to 5 hours long, and that sales set you back £10 and 5 pence until February the 18th. If you caught our Blade Chimera review the other day, then you'll know that the developer previously worked on Record of Lodos War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, which is quite a mouthful, but it's a Metroidvania and a very good one as well, that's down to its cheapest at 40% off here in the EU regions. Well, it's not the EU regions in the UK anymore, but you know what I mean, until February the 12th. Now it's an all-new story set around the events of Record of Lodos War, Diadem of the Covenant, but you don't need to have played any of the other games in the series to enjoy it. It's got melee and ranged attacks and has a strong Castlevania feel to it. There's a physical of this one as well. I'm pretty sure I've got it actually in the shed. In the shed. That makes it sound a lot worse than it is. But this one, the sale goes on until February the 12th. That's £11.33 as I say in the EU regions. BPM is down to just £5, £5.99. That's 70% off. That's its cheapest ever price. Instant disclaimer, on Switch it's a bit blurry, like it doesn't look amazing, but it really doesn't matter, it's still a fun game. It's a first person shoot 'em up, but you've got like 10 different characters and they've each got their own strengths and weaknesses and a load of boss fights, and it has a randomly generated element to it. So if you don't mind that, I think you'll really enjoy this. I recommend it now as opposed to, well, when it first came out, because it now has the Overdrive update, which introduces a load of new characters, more weapons, a big new chapter as well, and also, probably the best part, difficulty modes. Because it was brutal. When they first launched it, I was like, no, no, but now you can actually tailor that much better. So there you go, a bit of a boomer shooter roguelite, BPM, 70% off until February the 18th. Tales of Vesperia, Definitive Edition, that one's on sale in the UK down to its lowest or max in it at £7.99. This one, on Switch at least, released around the same time as we had, what was it, Ease 8, and Ease 8 got all of the attention. It was an amazing game. But behind the scenes, Tales of Vesperia was like, please look at me, I'm really good. And it is, and I don't know if many of you are going to have space for a big JRPG, but this is a great choice if you do. It's published by Bandai Namco, and I think it's actually one of their studios that made it, but it's a real slice of just classic style JRPG goodness. Turn-based combat, a story involving big powers and civilizations under threat, but also it has that technological twist that I enjoy. Like, it's probably the reason I enjoy Xenoblade so much. I like that kind of like near future and then ancient technology combined. We don't actually have a review of that, so I can't say go check it out, but it's very good and highly recommended. That's 80% off until February the 2nd. Probably needing a lot less introduction, you've got LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which is easily the best work that TT Studios have done. I think it's called TT Studios, I think so. The oppressed and overworked team that have made all those LEGO games. But this is absolutely giant, like it's a beast. Now this sale does only apply to the American regions, unfortunately, although having said that, if you're quick, you can pick it up at Argos physically for £15.99 in the UK. Otherwise, the digital edition's 80% off over in America. In contrast to some of the older LEGO games, this one really does feel like a big open world. It feels a little bit more like the more accessible version of, what's that other Star Wars game? Jedi Survivor. I forget what the first one was called, but yeah, that series. because you can hop between different planets. There's a bunch of different missions and vehicles and abilities to customize. It just feels more like a semi-RPG almost in that regard. And being able to do the whole thing in co-op, yeah, it was quality. This was a really good time actually, introducing the kids to this one. So yeah, in the American regions, pick it up at the sale prices you can see on the screen. After Glen's review of LAIKA Aged Through Blood and the confusion around last week's mention of it, it needs another shout out and a bit of clarification. So what happened was, initially a year ago, it was due to release. And I don't know if it actually came out a year ago. I think it did. I think it released on Switch. And then it was pulled by the publisher, I guess. And then in August, it released for a week. Or like a couple of days, so you could buy it, and then it disappeared again. And now it's due to release at the end of this month with a nice chunky sale, and Glen has just reviewed it. So yeah, if you want to check this one out, I say Glen, we did it together, and it surprised us both. It's excellent, a Motorvania. The thing with it though is it has the best soundtrack ever. Let's see if I can play a little snip without getting a copyright strike. Just listen to this game. So yeah, if that appeals to you, that one's 35% off until January the 30th when it releases, and it's just 6.1 gigs. Go check out the SwitchUp review. This then takes us on to the Barjan Hidden Gem of the Week. And I really do enjoy finding hidden gems on Switch now, because it means I've got something to be excited about. Obviously a lot of these games, they get multiple mentions and things like that. You try to get them at their best prices, but otherwise you're just looking for those gems. And my purchase of the week, my own little pickup, it wouldn't be fair if my backlog didn't take a smashing as well, is Decarnation, which is half price. Hands up if you've ever heard of this game before, because I definitely hadn't. It's a mysterious, almost macabre Alice in Wonder style adventure that shifts between pleasant and very unpleasant. It centers around Gloria, who is a cabaret dancer. Her life and general situation starts to just tumble really, but it's like an old school adventure that combines like mini games into its gameplay. But then here's the kicker as well, not only is the art style just delightful, it has a soundtrack that was composed by Akira Yamaoka, who created Silent Hill's soundtrack, which gives you an idea of that constant tension between horror, surreal and normality. For £6.74, which is the current price and the cheapest this one's ever been, it's an easy recommendation. I'm really looking forward to a lot of you coming back next week and going, oh my goodness. That was amazing. And look, gameplay wise it has a few flaws, but as an overall artistic piece it's like, oh yes please. Take you probably 6 to 7 hours to finish it. It'd be a nice one to do in like 1 or 2 sittings ideally. It's just 642 megs as well. So that's it. Now we're going to go on to our Savaloys selection, which are the games that are very cheap. So much so they're as cheap as a Savaloy in the UK, or your Costco hot dog, or your Fed Cooks. And it's always the section where someone in the comments mentions their regional dish, and it makes me really hungry. I haven't had dinner yet either, but it is Friday. I'm recording this on Friday. Glen's coming over in a couple of hours, and I've got like 15 different shmups we're going to play through, and I think I'll be ordering a stuffed crust pizza. Oh yeah. Anyway, I digress. Number 1, we've got Deflector. 91% off. That goes on until the 30th in the UK only. It's £1.79. Classic style roguelite, bit like Hades. You've got Tardy, really enjoyable adventure game. That's 80% off. Gives me Roger Wilco and Space Quest vibes. That ends January the 27th. That's $1.99. Game Deck, the definitive edition where you play as a detective that goes into people's virtual worlds and tries to solve an issue within them. Well, that's 90% off until January the 27th, $2.99. The Big Journey, and actually I was playing Loco Roco on the PSP yesterday, and my goodness is that game amazing. Well, The Big Journey is a complete copy. It's 80% off, really enjoyable in America. It's February the 11th, £1.99. And Wanderlust, the travel stories, something a little bit different, which feels like an interactive book or storybook or a series of stories, all relating to escapism and travel and getting on the road. It might not appeal to you, but I recommend this. I think it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot actually. Quite poignant. That's £1.34. Absolute peanuts. Now I'm going to introduce a quick recap of the games that are still on sale from the last episode. that's it. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the content. Let me know down in the comments what you'll be picking up. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys.